Hello and welcome to the show today. I'm really glad you could join us. So today we're talking about one of the most important aspects of a business that I think a lot of people overlook, that when you get this right, it makes it way easier to scale to 7, 8 figures and beyond. And what I'm talking about here are virtual assistants. So virtual assistants are a very affordable way that you can get the support that you need to start working on your business and less in your business. And do it even especially in stages of your business where you're just getting started. You don't have a lot of money. And even as you continue to grow, there's all kinds of roles that VAs can fill within the organization. So with us today is Nathan Hirsh. Now, Nathan started his first company, Portlight, in 2009. And out of frustration of hiring remotely for Portlight, he found FreeeUp in 2015, or he founded FreeeUp in 2015 with his business partner because they wanted a better way and scrap poor support and unreliability of some of the existing platforms. Now, within 4 years, FreeeUp revenue scaled from 5 to 12 million in yearly revenue, was recently acquired by the HOTH. Today, our newly launched company, Outsource School, teaches entrepreneurs how to hire and scale their business with virtual assistants, and we'll share all of the secrets with us today. So Nathan, thanks for coming on with us. I appreciate you joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I don't know if I'll be able to share all the secrets, but I'll do my best.
All right, well, we got 30 minutes, so we got to move quickly. All right. Now, listen, I'm a huge fan of what you do. I mean, when we first started Credit Suite, my COO, my other C-level said, hey, let's hire this person for like 15 bucks an hour. And I said, you are crazy. We would never hire somebody at that rate for that position. Let's get a VA for $5. She's like, you're crazy. What's a VA? How's that work? And now I look at this and we have 25 full-time VAs. I mean, I credit it as being one of the top 3 reasons we're able to scale to 8-figure and beyond. So I love what you're doing, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And that was kind of the position I was in. I mean, I was in college when I started my first business. I tried to hire college kids, my friends around me, and they were super unreliable. And so I turned to adults. And not only did they not take me seriously as a 20-year-old, but they cost 40, 50, 60, $70,000 a year. And that was a high price to pay as someone just starting their entrepreneurial journey. So I got in the VA space out of necessity. And that's really why I became obsessed with learning how to hire VAs and how to manage them, because I saw that it would have opened the door, and it did open the door of running a lean scale business where you can have 30-person teams all remote from the Philippines, and it costs you as much as 2 to 4 US employees.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And that's often what I say is when they say it's got to be somebody that is from the States, it's got to be a non-virtual assistant. My question is always the same. Do you think you can get that one person to get better results than the 2 or 3 people I can get at exactly the same cost in the VA route? But you and I get that. A lot of people watching aren't even familiar with VAs. So let's start at the basics. When we're talking about this, what is a virtual assistant?
Yeah, so I like to break down hiring into 3 levels. You've got followers, you've got doers, and you got experts. And to some people, a virtual assistant is anyone that works from home. We're filming this during COVID, so a lot of people are working from home. But because I talk about virtual assistants all the time, I like to add a little bit of clarity. So when I say the word virtual assistant, I am just talking about the followers. 5 to 10 bucks an hour, usually non-US, but they might have years of experience, but they're there to follow your system, your process. If you don't have a system or process to follow, you're going to struggle to hire those followers, those VAs. If you hire a VA for $5 an hour and you say, I don't know how to run Facebook ads, go run my Facebook ads, probably not going to work out too well for you. Then you've got the doers, the freelancers, the specialists. Could be video editors, graphic designers. You're not teaching a graphic designer how to be a graphic designer, but they're not consulting with you either. They're there to do that one task at a high level. And then you got the experts, the high level freelancers, consultants, agencies. They could be 50 bucks an hour. They could be 10,000 bucks an hour, but they're bringing their own systems, their own process to the table, and you're hiring them for strategy and expertise. And so as an entrepreneur, you need to be thinking to yourself, do I need a follower? Do I need a doer? Or do I need an expert every time you go to hire?
That's a great way of looking at it. Why are you seeing that so many successful businesses are going this way? Because one of my buddies is in your space and we were just talking at a mastermind. Dude, it's been explosive. Like their growth is doubled, if not quadrupled. So why do you think that, especially with COVID, so many businesses are going this way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were going this way before COVID. I mean, we saw it with FreeeUp when we started it. I mean, Amazon sellers at first, they were hiring everyone in person, and then they moved to VAs. And then you kind of saw the same thing with marketing agencies, and other businesses followed suit. I mean, we talk about price a lot, and you mentioned that, hey, why would you hire someone at 15 bucks an hour? But it's even more than that. I mean, let's say best case scenario, you hire a customer service rep in the US for 15 bucks an hour, which isn't a low wage. I mean, we both live in Florida. Minimum wage is $7 an hour, but it's not a super high rate either. It's relatively okay. But let's say best case scenario, they end up being a rock star customer service rep. How long are they really going to be happy with 15 bucks an hour? Eventually they're going to want 18, 20, 25. And eventually you get into a situation that you are either drastically overpaying for a role, or you have to start all over and you waste all that time. Where as you hire a VA for $5 an hour and they're a rock star, like we teach people to hire rock stars at Outsource School, give them 6, give them 7, give them 8, give them 9. They're going to be with you for a very long time. And it gives you a lot of flexibility. Hiring people in the US, very tough to hire people part-time for 5 hours a week, 2 hours a week, 10 hours a week. Not impossible, but when you're hiring virtual assistants, you get flexibility to hire people for what makes sense for you. I had a bookkeeper. I've increased her hours since, but she started off for 5 hours a month just to help me get Outsource School off the ground. Very tough to do that in the US.
Well, do you see people hiring one VA for a bunch of different tasks when they kind of get their first person? Or are you seeing that they get a VA for a very specific reason, a very specific tasks?
If you're new to hiring virtual assistants, I recommend hiring for a specific task. It kind of reduces the risk. A lot of times when you're hiring VAs for the first time, you don't really know what you're doing. And that could lead to more turnover. And if you put all your eggs in one basket, and you might have been in this situation before, I've been in that situation before where I hired someone and I taught them how to do everything, and then they quit on me, and it was a much bigger pain to replace. Now, once you're like you, where you have 25 VAs, or like me, where I just sold a company that had 35 VAs. I got 10 to 15 right now. You become better at hiring, better at finding the rock stars, the team leaders, and then you can hire people to run our partnership program, which we have right now, a VA to take sales calls and do follow-up, which we're training for right now, and more advanced things where it's not just one task they do every single day. It's a multitude of things. But when you're starting out, you want to start off with those specific tasks, learn how to hire, learn how to spot red flags, and then increase from there.
Mentioned training, and I think that a lot of people ask me this question when it comes to VAs. What are the best ways you found to go about getting somebody trained and onboarded when you hire them as a VA?
So the key is SOP, standard operating procedures. And it's something we preach at Outsource School. We even have our own software, Simply SOP, to create and store and share SOPs. And what SOPs allow you to do is avoid the training trap. Now, the training trap is where an entrepreneur hires a virtual assistant. They do one-on-one training with them, teaching them how to do something. But then at the end of the week, the virtual assistant doesn't really get it. And then the entrepreneur is in a really tough spot because they just invested one-on-one time to get them trained. Do they give the virtual assistant another week and then they're 2 weeks in? Do they fire that VA and they just throw away a week of training, a week of their life? What you are able to do with SOPs is give the SOP to the VA and pay them. I always believe in paying for people's time, but pay them to go through that SOP and learn it. And you're there to support them. You're there to ask questions or to answer any questions they have. And at the end of that day, that hour, that week, depending on how long that SOP is, you test them. And if they get 80% of it, great. Do one-on-one training, get them that last 20%, maybe use it as an opportunity to make your SOP even better. But if they get 20%, you part ways, you pay them for their time, and you didn't waste any of your time or your team's time if they're training them. And you have to be able to value time over money as an entrepreneur if you grow, and SOPs allow you to do that, along with making the virtual assistant learn the SOP on their own.
Do you see qualities that you really should look for in any VA that you hire?
Yeah, I mean, we're all about communication and attitude. I mean, skill and experience, we look for that too, but you'll get people that have a lot of experience or a really good skill set, and they're just a pain to work with. And so for attitude, we want people who want to be part of something, that don't just care about money. Because when you find people that only care about money, there's always another client out there who can pay your virtual assistant more than you can. And it's a very tough battle to win. When you get people that care about what they do, maybe they love customer service, they love graphic design, Or do you get people that want to be a part of something, that'll buy into your company, that want a leadership position, that want self-improvement, that want to learn new skills? Those are the kind of attitudes that we look for, along with positivity and being the bigger person and taking accountability. And then communication's everything. I mean, I only speak English, although I'm learning Vietnamese on the side, which doesn't help me with virtual assistants. But for someone like me that only speaks English, I need someone who can communicate in my language at a very high level. And that's not just voice, that's Slack, that's email, that's responding quickly, that's asking good questions on meetings. So we look for that trifecta of skill, attitude, and communication.
Makes sense. What about preparing to hire a VA? Is there things you should do or change internally to kind of set yourself up to basically, and we talked about setting up your SOPs to train them, but is there anything else that we should be doing to set ourselves up to receive them and get them on track right as they get going?
Yeah. So a few things that we encourage people to do at Outsource School. One is understand the different levels, which we kind of briefly talked about. Next is figure out what your hiring budget is. We have a great calculator. If you go to outsourceschool.com/VA calculator, you can plug in the information in your business and it'll spit out, hey, you can afford one part-time VA, 10 full-time VAs, whatever it is. And I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs hire VA without actually knowing what their VA budget is. And it leads to massive issues down the line. From there, you want to create a list of all the tasks that you know how to do, that you either have systems for or that you can build systems for easily. And that's going to give you a starting point. And usually starting with the easiest stuff on your plate is going to be the place to start, or you have to start building out systems for what you're going to hire for. And those are what the things you have to do before you even start posting a job or interviewing a virtual assistant.
Makes a ton of sense. When you are going about kind of getting somebody started, well, what kind of tasks can VAs do and what kind of tasks can't VAs, or ones that aren't really good, or they're not really able to do well?
So I'm biased, but I hire virtual assistants to do everything. And at Outsource School, I mean, we have trainings on how to hire VAs to do billing. I mean, at FreeUp, they were billing clients $200,000 a week and handling all of that: refunds, Stripe, PayPal. How to hire VAs for customer service, for lead generation, for getting you on podcasts or partnerships or joint ventures or webinars. A lot of people think of VAs in operations, which we've got plenty of trainings for. But for me, the fun part is hiring VAs to actually grow your business, get new clients, get new partners. We have VAs that run our partnership program. So the sky is the limit, and it can be a little bit overwhelming on what you can hire a virtual assistant for. But I mean, that's really why we created Outsource School, where we say, hey, here's our hiring process. And now that you know that, here's how you set up a team or a person for a specific role in all these different parts of your business.
You know, when you bring somebody in like this as a VA, a lot of people are concerned about security if they're in another country. So what do you say about that? I mean, how do you keep your data information secure when you're working with somebody else from another country?
Sure. So there's two sides of it. There's the common sense side, which is using stuff like LastPass, giving people user permissions, building trust over time, giving them more and more access over time. But then there's just the fact that virtual assistants, especially hiring from a third world country like the Philippines, care so much more about providing for their family, staying on the marketplace you got them, getting a referral or a review online, than they do about stealing or hurting your business in any way. It's just almost never worth it to them. Now, you can do all those other things, the LastPass and HubSpot and all these different tools that are out there. But the number one way to really protect your business is to build a relationship with the people that you work with. And if you have a US staff, encourage them to build relationships with your VAs. I mean, I had VAs that were billing me like 10,000 hours a week with FreeUp. And this is for years, even before that, in Amazon business. Never had a VA do anything serious to my business. And I had VAs that quit on me. I had VAs that I fired. But we treated them well. We treated them with respect. We got them to buy into what we were doing. And to me, that eliminates 99% of the issues. Like, can you have them sign an NDA or legal agreement? Sure. But are you really going to chase someone across the Philippines over a piece of paper? Probably not.
So do you only work in the Philippines and recommend people in the Philippines, or are VAs available from everywhere?
VAs are available for everywhere. I hire mostly from the Philippines. I do have people outside the Philippines as well. My mentality for people that are hiring VAs is, What you don't want to do is hire 2 people from the Philippines, 2 people from India, 2 people from South Africa if you're just getting started, because you're just adding a lot of extra work to your plate. There are cultural differences, there are time differences, there's all these different things that are going to come up that's just going to make it harder for you. Not impossible, just a lot harder. And from my experience, and we have a video called Hiring from the Philippines 101 if people grab a free trial of Outsource School. Everything from they're all about family, which is great when you're building a team, to they're speaking English at a high level, to them being used to working US hours, to my just personal experience hiring there for 10 years. It is a great place to start. So you want to start with one place. And if you have to start with one place, the Philippines is a good place to do it. But there are plenty of great VAs from all over the world.
Nathan, I get this question a lot too. Why would these people work for $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 an hour?
Yeah, it's a great question. We did a video on this in our Facebook group yesterday. We actually had one of our VAs go live in the group and just talk about like, why is she a virtual assistant? And there's a money factor. And actually they'll make a lot more usually being a virtual assistant than they would in their home country. I mean, the average minimum wage in the Philippines is around $12 a day. So if you're paying someone $5 to $10 an hour, and I've had VAs that I paid $15 to $20 an hour out of the Philippines eventually, they're going to make a lot more. But there's other factors too. I mean, before COVID, they had to drive to work, and traffic in the Philippines is brutal. I was in the Philippines once, and we spent an hour in traffic to go like a mile and a half, and they had to do that every single day. A lot of them have large families they have to leave, or they have to hire a nanny for, which is just an additional expense, where being able to work from home gives them a lot more flexibility. And a lot of the same reasons that I like working from home, I've been working from home for 10 years, is the same reason that they do. I mean, I wear shorts and a t-shirt every day. I work pretty much flexible hours, or at least hours that I've agreed to with other people. I can take care of personal stuff. Like I'm moving right now, right after this podcast, I have someone coming to buy a desk, and I don't have to run home from work. There's so many benefits and flexibility and lifestyle to go along with the money component.
The Philippines, I've seen a lot of them have college degrees, most of them. Why? I mean, like it seems as common there as it is, a high school degree from here.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be fooled by the hourly rate. Like I work with very intelligent people from the Philippines. We just hired a salesperson who's worked at Verizon, who's got like 10 years of sales experience, who's bringing a lot to the table. He'll probably bring stuff to the table that I don't even know how to do, because I've never had a sales corporate job. So there's a lot of really talented people out there. I personally, like a college degree, whether they have it or not, is not the biggest factor. It might be a factor, but like I have a college degree on the wall that I've never used. And I've hired plenty of people that did go to college or didn't go to college, and it hasn't always been a perfect reflection of how good of a VA they'll be. But there are plenty of people in the Philippines that get a great education and then become a virtual assistant.
If I'm on Outsource School and I use Outsource School to be able to find my VA, what kind of things should I be looking at as I'm vetting one candidate versus another?
Yeah. So at Outsource School, we don't actually provide the virtual assistants. We can help you get a virtual assistant once you're ready, but we're giving you a step-by-step process. Everything from the exact interview questions to ask and what to look for, how to set expectations with onboarding, how to create SOPs with a software to create SOPs. You get access to our trainings on how to build separate teams, so you don't have to do any of the guesswork, plus community and support if you do run into issues or you have specific situations. We've seen it before. We know exactly how to handle it. So you're getting that support along the way to make sure that you can hire rock stars, hire them quickly and efficiently. Our interview process is fast, and be able to keep them around. I mean, our members have very low turnover. We have very low turnover, and we want to take everything that we've learned and pass it along to you, so that whenever you need to hire, you can go wherever you want, get a virtual assistant, use our process, and know that you're going to get results.
Where do you think are the best places to go and find VAs?
So I'm biased, right? I created the FreeeUp marketplace. I trained all the people there. I have a great relationship with them. I have a great relationship with the new owners. I get my own VAs there. So I recommend checking out FreeeUp if you people haven't already. But I mean, there's no shortage of marketplaces to go to, the Upworks, the Fivers, stuff like that. I like FreeeUp because it's going to send me options that already have a level of vetting, and I know that they're going to back me up if anything goes wrong with it. And so I can still do my vetting. I put my VAs through the same process we teach at Outsource School, but I'm not going to have to go through 50 people to do it. I'm going to get 2 to 3 people that are already vetted, and then I can vet them the way that I want.
What steps does somebody go through in the hiring process to be able to find a VA, hire a VA? Like, what's that like versus American employees?
Yeah, I mean, we call our hiring process IOTM, IOTM, which stands for interviewing, onboarding, training, and managing. And we talked a little bit about what you do before you interview, the budget, the different levels. We talked a little bit about the interviewing, the care interview process, communication, attitude, red flags, and experience. Onboarding is all about setting expectations. It's one of the most important things that we learned hiring VAs, and that a lot of our students, it's made probably the biggest difference in their business, because when you set expectations well up front, you avoid all those issues down the line. We talked about training, which is the SOPs. And then lastly is managing. And managing can be broken down into so many different things, everything from bonus and raise programs to meetings to giving feedback to firing virtual assistants. All of that goes in there. And we have specific tactics and ways we've done it to not only get stuff done at a high level, but also get it done quickly and efficiently. We don't want to have 4-hour meetings. We want to have 20-minute meetings that are fast and efficient and get the job done so we can move on to the next thing.
What about pay? How do you pay them? Do you pay them direct deposit to a bank? I mean, is it better to pay? Because if I pay them through Upwork, I pay like a 10% fee, and I don't know exactly how much FreeeUp is. But do you continue to manage them long term and pay them through the actual platform you hire them? Because man, I mean, I don't think a lot of people do. I mean, I hire a lot on Upwork. I keep them there, and then eventually I move them and just start paying them direct. What's your advice in that area?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about FreeeUp is there's a lot of protections if you do keep them through there. Like they have a no turnover guarantee where if someone quits, they'll cover all replacement costs and get you someone else. If someone disappears, they'll reach out to the VA and get a hold of them for you, stuff like that. And whether you use a marketplace or you hire direct, that's a personal preference. There's pros and cons for both. I hire through FreeeUp. I pay FreeeUp and they pay the VA. It's easy. They draw from my bank account every single week. There's a convenience factor there as well. If you want to pay people directly, I recommend Payoneer. They're a company that I've worked with for a while. What I like to do is go to the people in the Philippines and I ask them what's good for them, because anything that doesn't really matter to me that I can make a win for them, it just makes me one step closer to becoming their favorite client. And my goal is to be the favorite client of every single VA. So if they prefer TransferWise or PayPal or Payoneer, I'm happy to do it. And I found that most people in the Philippines like Payoneer because they just pay a $3 fee to withdraw the money, and the conversion rate tends to be pretty good. But this always fluctuates over time. There's always new companies coming out. People change their conversion rates and all sorts of stuff.
How do you know how much to pay them? Like I had this like rule that they should be like 3, 4, $5 an hour. They speak good English. It should be like 7, 8, but that's just based on experience. I really don't know. So like, how do you figure out how much to pay a VA?
Yeah, so we break this down a little bit in Outsource School. I mean, usually around 5, and I say 5, but that's a ballpark. It can be 3 to 4, it can be 6, whatever is pretty good for that standard virtual assistant. If I'm going to promote them to voice calls or team leaders or some kind of project manager, or they're doing higher level projects, they're going to be more in that 7 to 10 range. But I like to say 5 to 10 is a good range. For easier tasks, you're usually in that 5 to 7. If you get a little cheaper, that's fine too. My biggest thing is we don't hire anyone unless we know that they're happy with the rate. And it's part of our interviewing process, part of our onboarding process. We want to make it very clear that we don't want issues down the line in 6 months with rate. We want to make sure they're happy with the rate now. And they're not only just happy with the rate now, they're happy with my bonus and raise program. Because if they start off at 5, but they're expecting to make 10 by the end of the year, and I only give a dollar raise every year, that might not blow up on me now, but that's going to blow up on me at the end of the year. So it's all about being proactive and making sure you're 100% on the same page with the virtual assistant.
Makes sense. But paying them hourly, you think that's smarter than paying them per task?
It depends. For like we blog writers will pay per article, graphic designers, stuff like that. We tend to pay our virtual assistants hourly, the ones that are doing our customer service, stuff like that. For sales calls, it's actually hourly plus commission. What we found, because a lot of people do fixed pricing, but a lot of people will do fixed pricing like a monthly fixed price or weekly fixed price, but they're really doing it to like save money on the extra hours. So they'll have the virtual assistant work 50 hours a week, but only pay them for 40. That tends to backfire on them at some point. So what we like to do is we'll pay them like a fixed price for 40 hours, but then we'll just pay them hourly for anything they work above that. And that works pretty well for us. It's all about being fair. Again, our goal is not only to have a great VA, but to be the favorite client of the virtual assistant. And that's something that we found works.
How do you communicate with them? You mentioned communication is really important, but I mean, how do you communicate? Is it by phone? Is it by Zoom? Is it by Slack? Is it by all of them?
Yeah, so we set up three communication channels. Slack is for day-to-day communication. Meetings are there, interviews, onboardings, any when they do a task, start a task, change a task, have questions, all via Slack. Emails is for responses within a business day. So I'm not going to send people an email if they need to respond to me in the next hour, or if it's something urgent they need to read right now. And then an emergency channel. So I connect with my VAs on social media. They have WhatsApp or Viber on their phone. So if something blows up on the weekend or whatever it is, we can get a hold of them. We're not waiting for them to respond to an email. And it kind of goes both ways, because if people are emailing me over something they should be slacking me, I correct them. If they're vibering me at 9 p.m. on a Friday over something not important, I'm going to correct them. So setting up those communication channels, making sure you're following them and they're following them is incredibly important.
How do you deal with the difference in time? Because daytime here is nighttime there.
So whenever someone, excuse me, has concern over time, to me, that's the smallest issue. Like, I haven't had a time zone issue in years, and that's because we set the expectation up front. Like, I just hired a salesperson and I need them to work 9 to 5, and we made 100 9 to 5, but he's worked 9 to 5 before. And so we don't want him experimenting working night shift on us. He may like it, he might not like it. We're not willing to take that risk. So we spend extra time there. Now, with my virtual assistant, Anna, who's my team leader, I don't need her to work 9 to 5. So she works 4 hour set schedule from 8 to noon, and then 4 hours flexible schedule, which is totally fine. So it depends on the role, but the key is you need to know what schedule actually works for you. You need to hire someone that's worked that schedule before, that wants that schedule, and you need to set the expectations and make sure you're on the same page before you get farther along in the hiring process.
What about culture? Culture is really important to our organization. How do you build culture or get them to continue the culture remotely like that?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about culture for an hour. I mean, culture comes down to three things. You've got knowing what your culture is. My culture might be slightly different than your culture, but you have to define your culture. Then you need to find people that are an actual cultural fit. You don't want to take someone and try to mold them into your culture. You want to find people that already fit that culture. And then you want to do things to maintain that culture over time. We have a culture meeting once a month. We actually just had I think yesterday or the day before, we all hopped on a Zoom call, and we talked, we shared stories, we did bonding. We have other culture meetings where we'll get to know each other, get them to buy into the company. Culture is something that you need to maintain over time. You can't just say, hey, this is our culture, this is what it is. And you have to be willing to have tough conversations with people who are not following the culture, and remove people. Even if they're your best salesperson, if they're not following the company culture and they're refusing to do it, they have to go, because it's very, very easy to break that delicate balance of culture.
It makes sense. Is the culture differences pretty significant between their culture over there and the United States culture? I mean, are there problems there we should look out for?
Um, yeah, I mean, I personally like the Filipino culture. I mentioned family a few times. That's a big part of it. I think there's certain things that are part of our culture. Like, we care about giving feedback, being brutally honest about things, taking responsibility, like speaking up if you think something's wrong. And sometimes, and I hate to put everyone everyone in one country in one bucket, because it's just not true. But from my experience, a lot of times VAs can be shy, and it might take me a few reminders to be like, hey, I don't want you to just say yes, Nathan, because I'm your boss. I want you to actually speak your mind and tell me what you think, because you're doing this task more than me, and I want to help make it better. So there's certain things you have to pull out of them, but I think the basics and the overall values are very much the same. We're all human beings. We for the most part, if you hire right, we want the same things. They want to keep their job. We want to grow our business. They have the same common goals, and you just have to figure out a way to bring it together.
Talk to me a little bit about loyalty, because in my experience, man, I mean, I've never seen anything like Filipino VAs. Like, once they're hired and onboarded, if you take care of them, they do not leave. Like, I can't even think of a VA that's ever left our organization voluntarily. I mean, very few we've even had to let go. So why is that, man? Like, what's the loyalty? Why is there so loyal over there compared to what I've ever seen in the States?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've seen the same thing. I'm not sure if I know exactly what the answer is. I mean, they're looking for an opportunity. Imagine what it's like being in a third world country where there's not that many great jobs, and every job that you have want to get is a further drive away, and you have to be away from your family. So when you find a client, and a lot of them have had bad clients before, clients that talked down to them, didn't treat them right, nickel and dime them over every single hour, stress them out over and over. So when you come in and you treat them right and you become their favorite client, they want that. They've been looking for that for who knows how long, and they don't want to lose that. And they want to be a part of something. They're looking for that opportunity to be a part of something. So when you're able to do it, and it seems like you are, and I've had that same situation. I mean, the people we hired in the first few months of FreeeUp were with FreeeUp 4 years later when we sold it. They're still with FreeeUp a year later after we sold it. And same thing with Outsource School and my Amazon business. They are very loyal, but it all comes down to treating them well. Just because you're paying them an extra few bucks an hour, that alone is not going to keep them around.
Nathan, as we get ready to wrap up, what should have I asked you that maybe I didn't? I mean, anything else relating to the interviewing, the onboarding, the training, and managing of VAs that you think that everybody listening and watching today should know?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of end it with this. Like, if you've never hired a VA before, just keep in mind, I didn't just wake up one day, and I'm sure you didn't either, and just hire 25 full-time people. You start small, you build up from there. Start off trying to get 5 hours a week back and build up from there. You'll learn a lot, whether you're using our processes or trying to figure it out on your own, and build up, hire more VAs, increase their hours. And that's the way to go about it. That's how you grow a business. You don't have to dive in and hire 4 VAs today.
Thanks for coming on with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So everybody, I can't tell you the importance of this topic. I just can't. When I owned a mortgage company and it was crashing in the mortgage crisis, I hired my first VA, Sarah, 10 years ago. She still works with me today. Matter of fact, I mean, 99% of every VA I've ever hired still works today. And what we love about them is that they're loyal, they're dedicated. They just do the job you ask them to do to almost perfection every single time. There's no drama. There's no drama. It's crazy. It's absurd when you hire employees in the United States, how much drama there is, how much entitlement there is. You just don't deal with any of that with VAs. But there's a huge problem. A lot of people don't know how to hire them. They don't know how to interview them. They don't know how to find the right person. They don't know how to onboard them. They don't know how to train them. They don't know how to scale the organization using them. That is exactly what Outsource School does. And this is the biggest problem. It's not hiring VAs. As Nathan said, there's a bunch of places. There's Fiverr, there's Upwork, there's FreeeUp. There's a lot of places you can go. But the problem is, what do you do when you find the right one? How do you know you're finding the right one? How do you interview them? How do you onboard them? How do you get them in the organization the right way where they're part of your culture and they can really be a huge asset to the organization? It's exactly what Outsource School does. So make sure you check out their website, outsourceschool.com. Tons of really valuable information here. They even map out all the different types of training that they do. And what's interesting is that even if you look at the training modules they have on their website, you get a lot of really smart ideas of how you could use VAs in your organization. So if you're sitting there going, I'm not exactly sure where I use them or how I use them, another big problem I have, and another big problem I've heard. And the answer to that is just go to outsourceschool.com. There they have all their training modules listed, and you can even get a lot of ideas like booking them for a podcast, for example, that will help you grow your organization. Because once you see the power of what VAs do, you're going to want more, because what happens is it's not just about taking care of your existing tasks. It's about finding a way to do a lot more cool things to grow the organization even faster. VAs are the key. So make sure you visit outsourceschool.com. That's outsourceschool.com to learn everything you need to learn about finding the right VAs for your organization, interviewing them, hiring them, onboarding them, getting them trained, and making them a very valuable asset to your organization. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure you visit outsourceschool.com.